Hey guys, welcome back, it's Meg. Today we're going to be running a 26 Tyrannical Necrotic wake. You can find my stat weights in the top left, my legendary in the top right, and my talent choices and trinkets in the bottom right. We're going to start out and do this first pull like normal. One thing to be aware of though, it is a bursting week, so we just want to make sure that we have revival for big pulls like this, or that you are properly setting up for the bursting stacks prior to them going off. On bursting weeks, I usually use revival around 5 to 7 plus stacks. I say 7 plus, there's not that many times where that's going to be a thing. Usually only in big pulls or double pulls like upstairs with the orbs in here, or think like along the lines of the slimes in Plaguefall. Those are really the only times that you're getting that amount of bursting stack, but I do try and hold on to it for that, just for the Mass Dispel, and because it is a Tyrannical week as well, Fallen Order is going to carry us through most of the bosses instead of using Revival as one of our cooldowns. With Ruth, just like normal, you can go ahead and pop the cooldowns that you feel safe with. We've already used Revival, but I used Fallen Order in the beginning, and we're going to go ahead and use Crane here. So I'm not going to need either of these really until the first boss, and by then Fallen Order at least will be up, and then Crane will be up towards the end if I find that I need it. I wish that I would have held on to Cocoon here. This first boss is actually kind of dangerous for monks, just because we don't really have a lot of defenses we can cycle through if we get unlucky and get the Belch a couple times in a row. So I'd really encourage you to hold on to your Cocoon. I got greedy and tried to heal myself with Crane, and that just wasn't working, so I ended up using it anyway. Once again, this is one of the only weeks that I will take Chalice. Tyrannical weeks and Necrotic Wake are a little bit scary just because of that last boss. It seems like a lot can go wrong if you end up having to send a hammer on the third boss like we usually do. So I do take that for safety. You can kind of see me thinking about it though. I think at the end of this run I decided that I would have been safe with Brand, but I did want to play on the safe side because this was score for everyone at this point. I did also grab the shield before we headed over here, just because I wanted to make sure that, because I had to use Cocoon and I don't quite have Fort Brew yet, I did want that extra bit of defensive. Something important to note with the shield is that it is like an, I want to say 8-second channel, and you cannot cancel it and you cannot do anything while you have it up. So make sure that you're not going to have to heal anyone, make sure people are chopped, and that you don't have to take any actions during the duration of the shield. I went ahead and popped Fallen Order back here and then just hung out for a second to help stabilize. I also didn't want to get threat right away and get meleeed, so that was my reasoning for that. That's not really going to be a huge deal if you're doing this with a Paladin who might have Bubble Taunt, or for a Paladin who just has better Snap Threat than Blood Decay does. It's just something to be aware of when you have a Blood Decay. I don't have Revival here, so I went ahead and diffused myself, single dispelled someone else, and just continued to heal. It's not a really terrible thing that I didn't have Revival here because we do have the Kyrian orbs that did a lot of our healing for us, so it wasn't as scary as 10 stacks looks. During this fight, the one thing that's going to kill you, well, two things that are going to kill you, are either getting one-shot by the vomit, or the maggots getting to you and either eating you down or exploding. So the big thing here is just going to be worm control as well as individual responsibility on rotating cooldowns. In this group we have a good amount of utility to manage those worms, so it's not as scary as it would be as if we had like a mage or a warlock instead of a hunter, things like that. So we actually have a really good comp for keeping these guys away from us enough that we can cleave them down. You don't really need to use Fallen Order here, but I went ahead and used it just because we're going to have Kyrian orbs that'll carry us through for healing and for damage done, and I just want to get that little bit of damage in on these guys to make my overall look nice, because monks need that. Once again, we don't have Revival here for the bursting stacks, but we still have orbs, and we also have Fallen Order running, so we'll be just fine on that front. Outside of that, it is not fortified or anything like that, so the Narzuda, Grim Fate, none of that is going to be killing anyone unless it gets someone while they're low from bursting, so just be aware of that. On Fortified weeks, I end up using Fallen Order here usually, but just something to be aware of if you're going to use it here or on another week. Don't put it out in the middle of this kind of pathway between a pack where we're at now and Sagadon, because they will not move, and the big skeleton guy that patrols around here, he will walk through them and they will proxy pull because they can cast from about 50 yards out and they won't move, and then they do pull things. So just be aware, make sure that you're tucking them back in the corner or against this wall. I wouldn't pop them again on Sagadon. I would pop them back here where we're standing now and then run in later, because the ones that are going to be in melee will still be on Sog, and they will kind of follow him closely, but the ranged healer ones, those are just going to stay wherever you use the ability. Biggest thing here is just make sure you're not standing in front of that Marauder, because you are going to get cleaved, and even on a Tyrann week, I'm pretty sure that would one-shot you, or pretty dang close. I went ahead and used Revival just because I'm not really going to need it again until we get to Amarth towards the end, just because that is a little bit scary. But we still have to kill Sog, still have to do the Incinerator, so it'll be up by the time that I need it, and we're not going to have bursting stacks in between now and then. alright to use Fallen Order here. You're not going to need it again until after the first harvest from Amarth, so it should be up by then. I would try to hold on to Crane, because it is a little bit longer of a cooldown, but you should be able to make it through just fine, whether you decide to use or hold. Alright, and that is the first harvest. I do have 5 renewing mists out right now. One of them's about to drop off, but we're in a pretty good spot. I probably realistically could have held on to Fallen Order for another set, but I didn't want to, just because it is up so frequently that it would kind of be dumb not to. So I just went ahead and popped it. Make sure we're watching out for those swirlies, because I think that you can still get hit in the air, even if you get knocked up by a volcanic, by those green swirlies. I'm gonna go ahead and bring that one in. Fallen Order is dropping off, and we're gonna have a Necrotic Breath going into another harvest here in about 10 seconds. Alright, and there goes Crane, because we just had the other harvest. We want to make sure that we are not falling behind, just because sometimes Necrotic Bolts get off or Frostbolt Volleys get off, and we really don't want people to just be falling over because of silly little things like that. And one last time, we can just go ahead and pop Fallen Order, take care of any damage that is still going out from the harvest as we finish off the boss here. Fallen Order does get popped here just because there's a little bit of damage coming out from the spare parts, even though we're using the tank orb. I did want to make sure that any of the throw flushes or anything like that was just going to get taken care of, so I didn't lose anyone to bursting as things started to die. I like to use Crane on this side pack during the gauntlet with the guy that does the poison rot damage. So I'm going to go ahead and use it here. By the time that we get to that point, it should be up. If not, Fallen Order also might. And Fallen Order wasn't up for this pull, so we just went ahead and went with Crane. This is our first big pack here in the gauntlet, so we're going to go ahead and pop Fallen Order more for the damage than the healing. There's really not a lot happening here for anyone other than the tank, and because he's a Blood Decay, he can take care of himself. Alright, and there goes Crane. The timing's worked out pretty well. We have Fallen Order up in about 20 seconds. That'll be just about the time that Crane is falling off, so this is actually a really good setup. Things that would be kind of taken into consideration right here is that it might take longer for you to kill the first pack as well as the 2-pack at the start of the gauntlet, so that might mess with your cooldowns a little bit on a fortified week, but you don't have to worry about it too much here. Right here, we're going to go ahead and pop Fallen Order, and then Crane should be back up for either the end of Stitchflesh or the beginning of Rimebender. Our group has always kind of struggled with getting a clean Stitchflesh fight. It is pretty hard with the Blood Decay. As soon as we get 2 creations, things get pretty rough in terms of tank damage and just being able to keep him up with our comp, not having a DR, things like that. So we do send a good number of weapons on this guy. I think that we double spear him, and then we send 1 spear on the last boss as well as the rest of our hammers. While we wait on cooldowns, we're just going to go ahead and kill this little creation. This was Bacon's pet that he brought up from downstairs. This is really just a way for us to get our cooldowns back. He's also the last of our percent before we go into the final boss. So with Lust and with the first spear that we have sent, we don't really need to have too many healer cooldowns rolling, at least until the first Aegis, but even then you're still going to have the damage with Lust to break it. We also waited for cooldowns. I like to leave melee for the first couple while we have everyone up here still. We have 4 melee in this comp, so while we're not having anyone exiled or anything like that, it's a little crowded in melee. We also don't have the slow on us from Oro, so it can get a little hectic. We are missing 1 DPS because they are exiled, so I went ahead and used Fallen Order here for those Aegis, just because I didn't want to be stuck in somewhere where I wouldn't be able to heal, so we went ahead and popped Fallen Order there. Monks handle this fight very, very well because we are throughput healers and we are very good at single target, as well as we have a strong toolkit like Cocoon, Diffuse, Fortified, and Brew, all of those things. It actually handles this fight very well. We have okay healing on the move. It's not great. Crane is very good when you can stay in melee. It also stops you from being frozen bound. You will not get the debuff if it is casted on you, anything like that. So that is super helpful. As well as just being high mobility, being able to get out if you don't have Crane for the frozen binds. And then being smart with your hots and stuff like that just makes this movement phase a whole lot easier. Fallen Order also works. I realized that I had picked up a shield on top of my hammer, so I had to get rid of that there. I'm going to go ahead and leave melee for this bind because I didn't have Crane. And then my hammer is now free, so we're going to use it on this Aegis. Because for this one, I didn't have any cooldowns. I had Fallen Order in about 10, and then our Windwalker was downstairs, so I just went ahead and used it there to get out of that scary situation. Fallen Order is back up for the next Aegis. We've also got a binds coming in about 5 seconds, so we're just going to keep an eye out on who that is from. The big thing to watch out here too is as people are coming back from being exiled, make sure you're not dispelling the frozen binds on top of where they're coming, because then you'll have a problem of they are trying to drop off their little puddle, and then they also can't move. We do have Tiger's Lust, which is great. You can dispel one and Tiger's Lust the other. So Monk actually handles that kind of situation very well, but you can't do that every time, and you have to make sure that you're on top of it. Otherwise, the person that is coming back from being exiled is going to die to their pool before you can dispel them. Or they could die in the bind and then put the pool in a really bad spot. Looking at my mana bar here, I really didn't need to take the mana power, but I did want to be safe just because it is a 26. I think when we were doing this it was score for everyone, so I didn't want to throw the key based on the assumption that we would be safe when I really had no idea because it was our first time doing this. Alright, and that brings us to the end of our 26th Necrotic Wake on Tyrannical. I hope this video was helpful for you guys. I will link the guide and the FAQ down in the description below, along with my UI and all of my character links and things like that. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Twitch, Twitter, or Discord, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.